I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to this regular scheduled meeting of the Oscoda Township Board. If we could begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire? Mr. Spencer? Mr. Taser?
Present.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Worcesterbarth?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here. Next is the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? I have one under other, the number 5, the Northern Michigan Children's Assessment Center request. No one from there could attend the meeting tonight, so I would like to take that off, and we'll have it, they will be able to be here at the next meeting.
Okay.
So we'll postpone that till our next meeting. Any other changes? Get a motion to approve?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of other number 5 being postponed until our next regular meeting.
Support, Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, we have an agenda. Next is our first public comment period. We ask that you fill out a card with the superintendent. Please state your name when you come up to the podium. Do we have any cards?
We do. Kathy Worcesterbarth.
Is the mic on?
Is the mic on?
Mic's not on.
Do I need to do something with the mic?
I don't know.
No, I think it's back there.
Hello?
Do not know.
Hello. Oh, okay. All right. All right, so I wanted to bring up the engineer's report. I have a question for Rick, the engineer. When he does his report, I was hoping that he could clarify if there is any new or remodeled bathhouse for the Oscoda Beach Park included. No, it sounds like it's, no, it's not. So just wondering if that's included in any of the grants that he's gonna be listing or addressing. And then the second item about the engineer's report, wondering about technology or funds that are addressing the PFAS in the wastewater treatment plant. I thought there was some sort of discussion about that. I feel like there's some, monies that are going to be looked at for that. I'd strongly encourage the township to look to the polluter for the legacy contamination, for the funds for any technology that addresses a wastewater treatment plant. It's obvious that they are responsible for whatever is happening in that wastewater treatment plant, so I would encourage the township to look to that avenue for funding any technology. And then the third thing I'd like to address is the Lake Huron pledge that is in your packet. And if you wouldn't mind, I'm actually going to go through some details. If you want to bring it up, I'm going to go one by one, but I'm going to provide this to Josh after the meeting. So just for a basis for everyone, the Lake Huron pledge, it looks like that first page is a standard sort of statement that all the communities pledge to. And then the most important thing in that pledge is that it addresses management practices across municipal departments. And I'm going to highlight that the water quality testing for our water supplier. So obviously, Lake Huron is the drinking water source for Oscoda, and I want that to somehow be highlighted in this pledge. It's very, very important that we maintain the quality, clean, safe drinking water for our community, and obviously Lake Huron is the source. So if I go through the goals, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. If I go through the goals, the first one addresses stormwater runoff. I'd like to have legacy contamination included in the list of pollutants. Number 2, steward and manage the DeSable Preserve. Please clarify the connection of the preserve to Lake Huron. Not everyone would know that it's vital to feeding into Lake Huron. Number 3, improving the quality of natural areas. Please include that Lake Huron is a drinking water source, like I mentioned earlier. Number 4, the safe access goal. I'd really like to see the Oscoda Beach Park highlighted as the very first comment in that goal. Right now, I think it addresses the DeSable River, and I'd really like to see the beach park, because when you think of Oscoda and Lake Huron, you think of the beach park first. So that handicap access project that is in the initiative in the packet tonight is an example of that. So number 5, let's see, the invasive species. Is that time? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'll submit all these comments to Josh so he can.
Okay, thank you. Did we have any other cards?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right. Moving on, next is our consent agenda. This is our regular meeting minutes from September 9th and our Recreation Parks and Rec meeting from August 10th, 2023. Also the payment of bills, September 24th, $67,259.07. Check run for September 17th, $273,327.49. And the sewer B&I payoff, which was refinanced in 2011 from 2003. The CWSRF report, DWRFD report, and the SRF interest report. Any questions on any of those? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Taser, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next is our subcommittee reports and project updates. First up, Mr. Freeman.
Good evening. Updates on the water main distribution system. Phase 6, the Colbath area. Contractor has completed, he actually could have all 98 complete now, but not, as of putting this information together for this report, he had 95 out of the 98 connections that had signed up, completed, along with the wells being abandoned. In addition, we installed 45 additional service connections out there to the main with stubbing off and meter pits. Those were to a variety of vacant lots and also those that had declined service. Phase 7, which is the township-wide service connection project. As of this report, there was 17 that were completed to date. I do know from last week and this week, another 7 or 8 have signed up. So those are moving slowly but surely. We did send out a second notice to the property owners that hadn't responded previously, and we set a a September 30th deadline as far as trying to spur them along to get us the information so that we can have a reasonable shot at significantly wrapping this up yet this calendar year, even though the grant goes until the end of next year, end of 2025. So We're going to keep pushing hard to try to get as many of those hooked up yet this year as possible. The 2024 Drinking Water Revolving Fund project with Schaff and Associates, the loans have been closed. Excuse me, notices of awards have been sent out to the contractor, and I'm in the process of completing the first disbursement request to Eagle, which will include all of the expenses the township has incurred since last October, November, up until through the bidding process and the loan closing. So that'll be all Rose invoices and, like I said, any other township expenses that have been incurred. Still working with the EPA community grant project and the grant coordinator of Chicago. Sent off the local share exemption request, the contractor preference, and the NEPA information. I just have not heard back from him yet on that. Once I get that back from him, then he will work with me to get the rest of the paperwork in place for the grant to be actually enacted so that we can start requesting reimbursements on that one also. The CDSMI, the water service inventory, roughly 328 of the approximate 360 inspections have been substantially completed. We're still a little behind on getting access into the houses that we have to verify what the materials are in the house. We are working to put that report together. Eagle is aware that portion of the report might be lagging behind. They don't have any issue with that they anticipate that. So that report will be submitted by the deadline of October 16th. And then there'll be, I'm sure, comments back and revisions that need to be made per their criteria. The leak detection program with Emmy Simpson, we kicked that off last Monday, the 16th. We have a follow-up progress meeting tomorrow morning. They got a significant chunk of the north and the northeast portion of the water system completed, from what I understand. A more detailed report tomorrow. And of that, they found only one leak at a corp, and township F&V personnel were out there looking at that today to determine exactly what's going on and fixing that leak. Didn't seem to be significant, but they did detect one leak over this past week. The sanitary sewer projects, the 24 CWSRF with Elmer's, Crane, and Dozier for the main line and the pump stations, RCL Construction for the treatment facility out at the lagoons, and Merrill Brothers for the sludge removal. Same as the DWRF, the loans have been closed, notice of awards have been sent out to the contractors, working on the first disbursement request, and pulling that expenses together, same as the DWRF, the expenses incurred by the township since last fall. And then Pump Station 8 is obviously the priority component of that project once we get everything in place. The bypass pumping is continuing on with John Henry, and we should be taking the possession of the pump that we'll take out the bypass pumping later this week and get that installed so that we can terminate the work with John Henry on the bypass pumping. And then as soon as Elmer's, Crane, and Dozier gets officially underway, that's going to be the first project that they undertake. To address the PFAS treatment, RCL Construction was awarded that portion of the contract out at the Lagoon project. As I said before, this is roughly a $15 million project. $7.5 million of it is loan forgiveness, and we do have it's basically the same GAC system that we're installing out at the lagoons for the effluent coming out of the township, influent into the lagoons. We'll be treating that PFAS to minimize that below Eagle standards. There is nothing in place yet for any cleanup of the ribs or the deep groundwater issues that we have out there. That'll be something to consider for the future and to look at hopefully some other funding sources from the government. Operations and maintenance contract is back from the attorney. I'm in the process of reviewing that, and I will be getting my comments back to the subcommittee tomorrow on that. Ratliff Park, we should be seeing the final plans for Warrior Pavilion and the restroom and the parking area within the next month or so. And then going through that, review the final plans and the budget, and then if everything's in line, we'll get that project out for bids this winter. Or some of that construction can actually take place during the winter, but wrap that up next spring out there at Ratliff Park. Hull Island, we still don't have any formal recognition of the grant award from the governor's office. Apparently that was due to the MDNR miss getting it into the budget paperwork. They're in the process of getting that resolved now, so we should have some word on that formally by the end of the month or first part of October. In preparation of that being officially awarded, we'll have to enter into a project agreement with the trust fund, but the next step will be getting an appraisal, and I have reached out to the 2 pre-qualified trust fund appraisers and have quotes for them, so that once we get all that in place, I'll bring that recommendation back to the board for selecting the appraiser to get that moving along. Phase 3 trail project is essentially done. The final reimbursement request has been submitted to the trust fund. Hopefully that'll come into the township any day now. Still working with the Forestry Service on the ORV crossing of River Road out at Old Orchard Campground, getting their review and sign off on that. The Road Commission has approved the project. They just need to have the Forestry Service to agree. Facility study with WTA, again, continuing to research funding opportunities. There is some new MEDC funding coming out, so hopefully that will help with coming up to cover the, right now, approximate budget of $20 million for that project for the future. Continuing with the subcommittee and F&B operations, water loss investigations, as I mentioned with Emmy Simpson, but we're also pretty much have mapped out the River Road area, and once we have that map established, we're going to sit down and go over that to see if our suspicions are correct that there could be some bypassing of the water from Oscoda Township and Osable Township there, which could reflect in a fair amount of the water loss that we're seeing, but that's no guarantee yet. We did get the from Eagle, the Lagoon Effluent Discharge Permit application. It's been in the process of being updated or renewed since 2016. I'm working with F&V operations and the Eagle staff on the parameters that they're expecting us to meet. Along with that is the level they're getting this in place, and then the PFAS will be bolted on to this as far as the discharge permit that will be granted to the township. And we were out on site a couple weeks ago talking about it, and then also with Eagle staff and with the PFAS. This is the Oscoda Township is going to be somewhat the I don't want to say guinea pig, but as far as the poster child, maybe is the way to talk about it, as far as how this permitting is all going to be put in place, and then also what the expectations of the treatment components are. So working on getting that in place. Specific funding opportunities that are out there later on in the agenda. is the recommendation to accept the Initiative for Resilient Great Lakes funding that they have granted us to help us with the design of the beach dune and the dune grass and that down at Oscoda Beach Park, which is an initial component to improving the long-term longevity of the boardwalk if and when we get funded for that. We did get comments back on the trust fund development grant that we submitted on that. That grant did not include anything for the bathrooms. This go around, that was just for the boardwalk and beach access. But the bathrooms and the other improvements at the park are in line for the next round of grant applications that we'll be making. Again, MEDC's got some new grants out there, so we're going to look at the opportunity to, again, focus on Oscoda Beach Park and trying to get that capital improvement plan that was put together a few years ago well underway. And that's essentially my report. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Rick?
Yeah, Rick, just on the Asable area, Oscoda area.
Yes.
By Hilltop, when do you think you'll have a good report on that, if there's a cross or not?
John Henry finished his side of the investigation. He's given that information to Rowe. Dave Richmond's got that drafted out on the map. I want to take a look at it to see kind of what it shows, so that we would probably within the next week or so have something ready to distribute to, I would guess probably the subcommittee, utility subcommittee to look at. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Just one, you heard the comment about approaching the Air Force in terms of this PFAS plant that we have to put up to filter the coming out of the effluent. I know we're going after this because we've been required by Eagle under our permit to do this. Do we have any leverage with the Air Force to make some arrangements for this, for the cost of this?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. We do have the possibility avenue of going through the EPA as far as coming up with some funding from them on this. So we're kind of looking at those avenues. Directly from the Air Force, I guess I can't answer that. I haven't been part of any of those discussions or whatever. I mean, I think we're all well aware that they are the source of the issues we have out there, and you know, whether or not directly funding from them, I couldn't speak to that at this time.
Yeah, my experience is their excuse is it's our infrastructure,
Right.
which they turned over to us without any responsibility.
Right.
So, okay, thanks, Rick. Next is the OWA report. That would be me. At our last meeting, there are several things going on at the airport. One is Coletta has asked permission to build a new building. There's approximately 60 by 70 by 14. This is to expand their apprenticeship program out there. They currently have 197 people in their apprenticeship program. When the people complete that program, their salary is $26 an hour. Coletta retains approximately 80% of the people that go through that apprenticeship program. Not all here in Oscoda, but at other sites, other Coletta facilities. So it's an important program for their apprenticeship, and they were given permission by the Airport Planning and Zoning Commission to move forward with that proposal. The airport has a new website. They just recently hired a company to build a new website for them, and I saw a sample of it. It's not completely done yet, but it looks very nice. You can go on there and take a look at that. It has a lot of information. Space Harbor is a company that's involved with what we were originally talking about as a spaceport. And what we were waiting on in the past was FAA permits to see whether or not we would get a permit here at Wordsmith for that type of an operation. But when the Space Harbor came up and looked around, they said, well, there are things that we can do without having an FAA permit, and that is to bring manufacturing for some of these things that would be going possibly into space or whatever's needed for that kind of a program. So they're looking at renting a building out there to start an operation. So that's good news. That's pretty much it for the airport. Next would be the Planning Commission, Mr. Taser.
Yeah, at the Planning Commission meeting, we went over the blight ordinance and the accessory structure amendment that's before the board on the second read tonight. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Next is ZBA. Mr. Spencer is not here. The LDFA, Ms. McGuire is not here. EIC, Mr. Sutton.
For the EIC, to leave some things for Nancy, currently we are reviewing our bylaws and we are planning an RRC survey work session for the survey to go out to the public.
Okay. Thank you. 911, Mr. Spencer. HUSRA. At the last meeting, there wasn't a lot going on there. They went over their audit for the year, and otherwise things are pretty much, they're pumping water every day, and everything is going relatively smoothly out there. So it wasn't a big involved meeting. Mostly the audit that was done. The RAB, Mr. Cummings.
Yes, hi. So the Air Force held a RAB action item meeting last Wednesday. It was a remote meeting, so people would virtually attend. I had a conflict. I wasn't able to attend. These meetings are held periodically, roughly once a quarter following the on-site RAB meetings. I just know that the latest update of the action items list was presented. I don't know what the Air Force reported progress on. There's usually an update on this the next time we have the RAB meeting, so there'll be an opportunity to catch up on that. The next thing I wanted to mention was to appreciate Ms. Wusterbar's comments about the other item on the agenda, and wanted to know if maybe you could provide us the copy you said you were going to give after the meeting. I'd like to see what you were going to say that you didn't get to say in the 4-minute time frame, since we'll have to discuss and vote on this before you hand it to Josh. That'd be great. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. The Cedar Lake Improvement, I don't think we have anyone that attended that meeting. Utility Subcommittee, Mr. Wusterbarth.
We canceled the meeting last month because we haven't had the item back from the attorney yet, but it's now back in Rick's hands. So we'll schedule that, and then Rick kind of gave an update of everything that's going on with our utility infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Our Community Development Director, Ms. House.
Good evening, gentlemen. Just to bring you up to date with what we've been doing in the office there. First off, the artist reception for the Take Flight contest that was handled by the Art and Placement Subcommittee of the EIC was held on Friday evening, September 13th, during Paul Bunyan. And we have 3 winners, and those exhibits will be placed at the Township Hall for exhibit for a period of 3 years. And I want to personally thank the Art and Placement Committee for all their hard work, and it was a great reception, so thank you. We've had a request to change the location of the annual meeting of the boards. You'll recall that it's scheduled for September 30th at 2 o'clock. It was originally scheduled for here at the Shoreline Players Theater, but we've had a request from a gentleman who finds it hard to maneuver the aisles here at the theater. The slope coming down for him is fine, but going back up, it's very hard for him. So I was wondering if we could have it at Warrior Pavilion. And I talked with Mr. Palmer, and I know it's later in your agenda for your consideration, and I appreciate your taking the time tonight to think about that. Just as a reminder, the next step in the Corridor Improvement Authority comes in late October at your October 28th meeting. So that would be when the resolution for the establishment of the CIA comes before you for a vote. I am working with Pablo through the MEDC on the update of what we know as the Trello board. And the Trello board is like a roadmap for the RRC certification that the township has. And there are several things that need to be updated on that, and Pablo is helping me get that in place. I have a phone call scheduled with him tomorrow morning to go over it, because the last thing I want to do is really mess that up. So I figure his thoughts are better than mine, so he's going to help me through that. Also, Pablo is going to help with the questions for the survey, and I'm going to be sending him the one that was done in '22, have him review that in time to take it to the EIC committee for their next step on that. And also regarding the RRC, all members of the EIC committee are registered for their class starting in the fall. Actually, in about 3 weeks. It starts in October. So that'll be in place for them. As Mr. Sutton mentioned, I am taking the bylaws back to the EIC committee for review. As you remember, I had them, what I thought was ready to bring to you last month. That wasn't so, and I pulled that off the agenda because I want them, being the nitpicker I am, I wanted them just right. And so they will come to the EIC on October 3rd, get that done, and then hopefully come to you guys the last meeting in October. I have put together a tentative calendar for the EIC committee meetings for 2025 that will go to the EIC for their approval next month. We're also having, I will bring to the EIC an update on the facade grants. We have some things to talk about with some possibility of 2 more businesses receiving what funds are left for their businesses, but the time's getting short. And we want to make sure that everybody is up to date and can get everything completed by the end of the year so that the receipts are turned in by December 31st. I had a meeting, with Lindsay Clark. I had a chance to meet her last Thursday. She is from MEDC. She's the regional rep for Region 3, which is our part of the state. And I had a really good chance to talk with her about available funding, not only for the next round of the Match on Main project, but also with the revitalization and placemaking program, which we know as the RAP, and also the Build My Community initiative, which has been established to reactivate what they call underutilized or vacant space in our community. Lastly, I will be out of town on October 2nd. I'll be attending the Michigan Township Association 2024 regional meeting over in Gaylord. And I'm also working with Palma Leonati from the Chamber to schedule some regular meetings between the CDD, the Chamber, and the CVB. So that's coming up. And that's all I have this evening. Any questions from you?
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for all your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
You put a lot of time into all this stuff. Thank you. Next up is the superintendent report.
As usual, I've got some invoices that need approval for you. We'll go through them one at a time. First is the invoice ending in 072 for the EIT trail, property research, and kayak launch.
Okay, Mr. Spencer isn't here. He usually runs through these for us, so I will try and attempt to go through these invoices. First is invoice 115072. We move to approve paying row invoice 115072 in the amount of $535 for as-needed services to be paid from account 101-299-821.000.
Support?
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
The next one up is ending in 073 for the C2R2 project.
Okay. I would move to approve paying row invoice 115073 in the amount of $21,362.50 for work on the 2023 water system project to be paid from C2R2 checking when funds are available.
Support. Sutton?
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next up, the invoice ending 074 for DWSRF.
I would make a motion to approve paying row invoice 115074 in the amount of $565 for work on the 2024 DWSRF funded projects to be paid from 2024 DWSRF checking when funds are available.
Support?
A motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Questions, concerns? Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 075 for the CWSRF project.
I'll make a motion to approve paying row invoice 115075 in the amount of $1,020 for work on the 2024 CWSRF funded projects to be paid from 2024 CWSRF checking when funds are available.
Support. Sutton?
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 077 for C2R2 Phase 7.
I'll make a motion to approve paying row invoice 115077 in the amount of $24,825 for work on the Phase 7 Water Services project to be paid from C2R2 checking when funds are available.
Support?
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 078 for service lead inspections.
I would move to approve paying row invoice 115078 in the amount of $19,152.50 for CDSMI service lead inspection to be paid from account 591000-800.300.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
invoice ending 079 for the downtown water main improvements.
I would make a motion to approve paying row invoice 115079 in the amount of $19,202.50 for work on the downtown water main project to be paid from the 2023 EPA checking when funds are available.
Support?
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Wisterbarth. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 088 for C2R2 water system phase 3.
I will make a motion to approve paying row invoice 115088 in the amount of $38,267 for work on the Phase 3 water main project to be paid from C2R2 checking when funds are available.
Support?
I have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Worcterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next up, we have 3 pay applications, the first of which is from Caterman Trucking. It is for the water system phase 7 being paid out of C2R2 funds.
I would make a motion to approve the payment of application number 1 for water system phase 7 in the amount of $208,158.30 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available or funds are currently available.
Support?
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Wisterbarth. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next, we have application number 9 from Schaff and Associates for C2R2 water system phase 6.
I'd make a motion to approve the payment of application number 9 for water system phase 6 in the amount of $99,509.59 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available or funds are currently available.
Thank you.
I'll support. A motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next up, we have application number 10 from Schaff and Associates for C2R2 water system phase 6.
I would make a motion to approve the payment of application number 10 for water system phase 6 in the amount of $85,000 or $85,848.84 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available or funds are currently available.
Support?
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Wisterbarth. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is our resolution ordinances. The first is the Oscoda Township Blight Ordinance. It's the second read. Questions on that? We have some rewriting of that ordinance, I believe. We had quite a discussion on this topic at the last meeting. I believe it was, some revisions were made. Are there any other questions or comments or anything further that needs to be addressed? not, we'll move on to the second read for the accessory structure amendment. Any questions or comments on that? All right, there's no action to be taken on either of these items. Next under other is the, we need to schedule a budget session for our sewer and water budget. I would like to get this done sooner rather than later. I'm just wondering what everyone's availability would be for later on this week or next week.
Friday's good for me,
What date would that be? What is that,
27th.
27th?
Do you want to do an afternoon or a morning?
The only meeting I have is 10:30 to noon.
Okay, so afternoon? Afternoon?
Yep.
Does that work for you as well, Bill, and
Let me just double check.
everybody else?
I won't be here Friday.
I see. That's right.
We have a retirement party at 11 o'clock on that Friday, which will be in the fire barn, I believe. Any other days this week or next? Thursday, the 26th. How does that look?
Late afternoon for me. Late afternoon it'd have to be for me.
3 o'clock?
Probably can make that work, yeah.
Actually, 3 works great.
Does
3
that
to
work?
5, yep,
3 o'clock
3 to 5.
on the
yeah.
26th?
Fantastic.
So I will make a motion that we hold a budget work session on September 26th at 3 o'clock.
Location?
And where do you want to hold that?
Location?
We have that at Warrior Pavilion? Do we have it out there? Or should we have it at the Township Hall in the fire barn? Probably easier at Township Hall.
Yeah,
Probably, yes.
Okay. So at Township Hall.
all right, thank you.
That's a motion to have the work session on 9/26 at 3 o'clock at Township Hall. Is there
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes,
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Good, we can get working on our budget and get that wrapped up here hopefully soon. Next item is as Ms. House mentioned, a location change for the annual meeting. I would make a motion to approve holding the annual joint meeting of the boards at Warrior Pavilion on September 30th at 2 o'clock.
Support?
Any comment, questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
yes,
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Initiative for Resilient Great Lakes Coast. This has to do with some of our grant funding for the beach park, I believe. Mr. Freeman, would you like to speak on this for just a second?
Yeah, in summary, as a side to us approaching the Oscoda Beach Park trust fund grant application back in now winter, January, February, we were approached by this group, the Coastal Management Great Lakes, Coastal Management and Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. They were made aware of Oscoda Beach and our importance to our priority of the Lake Huron shoreline. It's kind of tied to the Lake Huron initiative that, we're talking about later also. So I sat through several webinars, work sessions with a whole host of coastal technical individuals from NOAA, from Eagle, from the Coastal Zone Group and all of that. And one of the programs that they had was, if your project and your initiative at that project ranked high in their criteria as looking to preserving the shoreline, preserving the coast and all of that, that they would enter into an agreement with you, a design agreement basically. They would cover the design of your coastal improvement. And so what we did here is, in investigating the deterioration of the boardwalk at Oscoda Beach Park, kind of went back to several years, but also the flooding, shoreline flooding and such that took place in 2019, I believe, as far as the rising water, wind erosion and all that. Went through several scenarios, and it was determined that a way to help prevent further deterioration of a new boardwalk and making access to the public from the parking lot area, across the green space to the boardwalk to the beach, that a coastal dune would be more appropriate between the boardwalk and the water's edge. It would be strategically located so that pedestrian access would still be, able to go through there. 3 of the locations for pedestrian access will be the wheelchair access ramps to get down to the water's edge. And then along with the coastal dune, they will also help design and incorporate the dune vegetation, which will essentially provide a natural barrier to wind erosion, water erosion from the lakeside. And then on the parking lot side, they're going to work with us to come up with a design for stormwater runoff from the parking lot. More like, I know the buzzword out there is rain gardens, but it's more of a rain swale and that type of stuff on the edge of the parking lot, which will prevent runoff from actually River Road and actually all the way from 23 down to the park and ponding in that area between the parking lot and the boardwalk. So they are providing the design at no cost to the township. The information that we've already gathered for the grant application, for the trust fund, for the boardwalk, will help supplement their design. And then any other documents that we have pulled together as far as property ownership and all that stuff, we will supply to them. And they will work through the design with us with our review and approval. And then that design will be sitting there. Majority of this, because their evaluation is that we have plenty of sand down there, is that this could be the dune construction could actually be handled by township, the DPW and such, with basically just pushing the sand up in the specific areas, and then they have several nurseries that they work with as far as the vegetation that would come in there and at low cost or no cost to the township. So with this in place, when and if we get funding then for the boardwalk, it should help us with any grant, it should help us with the current grant application and any other future ones that we look at for any other improvements within the park, preventing that wind erosion, sand buildup and all of that. So, so my recommendation is that the board accept this initiative by this group and With that, we'll have a kickoff meeting here probably within the next month and get this design wrapped up probably yet this calendar year. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Rick, was this brought to the Parks and Rec Committee yet? Has it gone through there?
I mean, Al and all them are aware of it because they were obviously part of the trust fund application. The actual committee, no.
Is there a time frame on this at all?
No, it's just that they would like to get it kicked off yet this fall. But we could convene if we need to, could convene a committee meeting, but.
Personally, I think it ought to come through the Parks and Rec Committee.
Well, I think it's more of a DPW project. And part of our grant funding.
We have included already that we were looking into this, pursuing it in the trust fund grant application. So, and the Parks and Rec Committee, the Parks and Rec plan does make Oscoda Beach Park a priority already. So, but I'll defer to your choice on that.
I would make a motion to approve moving forward with the Resilient Great Lakes Coast Design Assistance as presented.
Support, Sutton?
Any discussion or questions? I think this will help us a great deal in not only this grant funding, but future grant funding, along with the Lake Huron Pledge. I think that will be a positive force in that regard as well.
Yeah, the township will get Great Lakes recognition for this, regional recognition, and national recognition for this, so,
And international.
yes.
All right, any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Lake Huron Forever Pledge.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the Lake Huron Forever Pledge to the next meeting until we can get a chance to go through all the comments, or at least most of the comments that were going to be presented tonight. Because personally, I've reviewed, well, we can't talk about it until there's a motion, so.
Well, I would just say that this was on our agenda in a previous meeting, and we postponed it to have the attorney review it. I did get a response back from the attorney, and her comments were, this pledge goes beyond just making promises, and while the document in and of itself does not commit the township to spend any funds, it does require the township to participate in projects that potentially will involve the expenditure of public funds. She notes, see action steps on page 3. We do not see any legal concern with the document, but just want to make sure it is clear on what signing the pledge will commit the township to. And I think, as we commented, this again will be a boost for us for getting grant assistance for work at the beach park and our other parks as well, 3 Mile Park.
Just a point of order. I had made a motion, and to discuss it, we have to either.
What is your motion?
To postpone until the next meeting.
I'll support it.
What was the reason? I didn't quite understand.
The reason is, Mrs. Wushtabarth is my wife, and we reviewed this in great detail, and she did a lot of research and actually obtained the Alpena pledge. And in reviewing the Alpena pledge and the Oscoda pledge, there are, I'd say, similarities, but there's a lot of things missing in ours that are in Alpena's. One,
Okay.
like community engagement.
Right.
Secondly, I agree with my wife that, Lake Huron is a huge, is our drinking water source, along with Midland, Saginaw, and Bay City, and there's nothing in there about clean water or contaminants.
Right.
So I would prefer to postpone this, and let's look at the write-up, and I would ask her to send the write-up to everybody on the board, And let's just get it right.
Okay?
Okay, it's fine.
I would just like to let you guys know that the pledge is going to be a document that is a living document, just like the Parks and Rec plan, the master plan. That is why you see the entities that have already been involved are updating theirs annually for those. And so those are things that can be added in additionally as we go through. The pledge is our pledge, so you can add those in.
Well, the motion is to postpone this. I'm with Mr. Westergaard, probably best to get this right the first time. So if there is another pledge out there that we can review relative to what we have presented to us here, something from Alpena or other areas, I'm sure, you know, I would think that all the communities along Lake Huron shoreline would be interested in having some sort of a pledge to protect, you know, the lake. It's what we live for up here. So we have a motion by Mr. Westergaard, supported by Mr. Taser, to postpone the Lake Huron pledge. Roll call, please.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, no. Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. We've taken off the Children's Assessment Center. Next is the HUSRA representative assignment. Typically, this position has been filled by our superintendent. I spoke with Mr. Horning. He's willing to, he did attend the last meeting with me. I've only attended, well, it would be 2 meetings, one with Ms. Klein where I was just up in the audience, and then I sat on the board at the last meeting with Mr. Horning in attendance as well. So I would like to make a motion to have the interim superintendent, Mr. Horning, as the township representative on the HUSRA board.
Support?
Any questions, comments about that? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the CLIB representative assignment. This, Mr. Westerbarth was on this, resigned. Ms. McGuire is the alternate, but the meetings we've had in the past year, she's not been able to attend, and our previous superintendent attended the meetings. Again, I spoke with Mr. Horning. He's willing to represent the township board as the CLIB representative for the, at least for the interim period during his title. So I'd like to get some input from the board if you'd be willing to have him represent us on that board.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Horning to the CLIB representative from the Oscoda Township Administration.
And do we have does Ms. McGuire maintain the alternate position in this motion?
Well, Ms. McGuire is technically the alternate.
Okay,
She hasn't been able to make any of the meetings, but
yeah,
she is technically still the alternate, so I would assume she
would stay there.
would
Okay,
remain as the alternate
All
for
right.
the time being.
fair enough. Thank you.
Is there support?
I thought there was, but if there
There's
isn't, I'll
nobody
support it.
supported yet.
Okay, I'll support it then.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Cummings.
Okay.
Any other discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next is our final public comment. Anyone that would like to speak, please come up to the microphone, state your name for the record, please, and you have up to 4 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Vicki Hopcroft, and I appear before you as a citizen Even though I serve in leadership roles throughout the community, I am here as a citizen of the United States of America. I want to express my concern that there is a great deal of disinformation affecting the citizens of Oscoda Township. My concern is that many of my friends, relatives, and fellow citizens are unfamiliar with the candidacy of Kamala Harris, who is running for president. She is a uniquely qualified candidate to represent the citizens of Iosco County, and I consider it to be imperative that our citizens, and I should say Oscoda Township and Iosco County, I think it's imperative that our citizens become acquainted with her so that an informed decision can be made at this very significant presidential election coming up in November. What has come to my attention is that many of my constituents and fellow citizens get their news from Fox News, and I use air quotes with news because Fox has been sued. I don't know how well known it is, but they were sued by Dominican voting machines and they lost $7.1 billion, that's billion with a B, because they lied about the results of the 2020 election. So Fox News is not, in my humble opinion, well qualified to provide factual information to our citizens, and I think it's very important. Kamala Harris comes from the middle class. She is for the people. She's been a prosecutor. She started out her career in law as a prosecutor and moved up to attorney general, senator, and vice president. She has always worked for the people. And the fact that she comes from the middle class, I find to be very significant because she understands the problems of the middle class. We, I dare say, in Oscoda Township are principally middle class citizens. Mr. Trump, her opponent, is a billionaire or claims to be a billionaire. I don't think there are many billionaires in Oscoda Township. I can think of perhaps 2 in Iosco County. He does not support the middle class. I have not seen him do anything in support of the middle class except complain. And people like to hear him complain, and it's entertaining, and no doubt about the fact that he is a showman, and he's a good speaker, and he's charismatic. But I urge everyone to find out, does he care about the middle class? Does he ever do anything for the middle class? He has, during his 4 years in office, he did cut taxes for the billionaires and increase the national debt by trillions of dollars. So it's very, very important that those of us in Iosco County and Oscoda Township find out the facts about Kamala Harris. Now, to do that, may I recommend National Public Radio or public television, because there you hear from Republicans and from Democrats, and you can get an unedited view of what Ms. Harris stands for. So you can also go to C-SPAN. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hello, everyone. This is my first meeting with you guys.
Could you state your name, please, for the record?
I am Gail Falzon, and I live permanently in Oscoda Township on Van Etten Lake.
Thank you.
The reason I'm here today is because of code enforcement, or let me say the lack thereof. We live on what you might know as Pierce's Point that goes down to the dead end. And a lot of us have homes there that we think are worth a lot of money. But as you enter West Shore Drive, and as we exit and enter West Shore Drive, I want you to see what we have to look at every day. And then I want you to also tell me if this is acceptable to you because the sailboat and is there a way that I can put this?
No, you should.
Maybe that-
Okay.
There you go.
This sailboat and this Jeep have been sitting there for almost 25 years. Because he puts a new tag on there every year, it doesn't matter that it's completely disabled and it will never go anywhere. This is a Sanford and Son junkyard, and it continues. And I feel sorry for the man who's in his 80s. He's building a home that's worth probably 800, 700, 800, big, beautiful home. But he could spend the money for that, but he can't. The neighbors have been complaining for over 20 years, and this township has done absolutely nothing. His grass is up to here. The trees are growing over the truck. The grass is growing over the truck. The porta potty has been out there for 4.5 years while he's supposedly building this house. Because he's an old man and he doesn't understand today's prices, he has, according to one of the neighbors, on his 4th or 5th contractor because he thinks it's too much money. But I would like you guys to pass this down, please, and tell me, is any of this acceptable to the Oscoda Township? Because if your property was sitting next to all of this, I would like to know what you would do about it. Simply putting a tag on a piece of junk and calling it is a disabled vehicle, it's never going anywhere. The Ford truck and the Jeep have had flat tires for years. The sailboat is not going anywhere. And the blue decoration he put on top of it is not helping either. And we're just, the whole street is fed up. And the reason that the whole neighborhood is not here tonight is because they don't believe anymore. We have complained, we have done everything, and Fred, the code enforcer, his hands are tied. It was turned over to the police. The police officers have no jurisdiction. The police officer in charge works at night. Then I was told to go to the Oscoda County prosecutor. I called there, he goes, "Lady, are you crazy? We deal with criminal drug addicts." And, or the judge, Christopher Martin, this is all but, we're going around and around and around and around, and I want to know what you guys are going to do about code ordinance. And you can have those pictures.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Kathy Woosterbarth again. Thanks for addressing my concerns about the Lake Huron pledge. I appreciate that. Also, it looked like there was something missing on the superintendent's report that you didn't address. Although I don't know if you intentionally omitted it or if the superintendent wanted to intentionally omit it, but it was the employee's retirement plan that's kind of skipped over. So I don't know if that was a timely matter or not, but just wanted to.
We took that out.
You took it out, okay.
Anyone else? Any comments? Public comments? Good evening.
First time up here. I am Fred Buckner, the zoning director. I have fielded a lot of these complaints in the township and work closely with the police department. It is very hard to get anything accomplished, to get these blight things taken care of, and that's why you guys have this ordinance in front of you. Not as a zoning director, but as a citizen, I also have a few things in my neighborhood that I have reported, passed along. Other neighbors have reported in my area, and they fell short because we couldn't do anything. our hands are tied. This ordinance has bite to it. In our old ordinance, or the ordinance we currently have, there's no fines, there's no times. If we put this in there where there's bite, it's only gonna take 1 or 2 people to pass the word around that Oscoda Township is, we're not gonna roll over any. I don't like going out repeatedly to the same thing, talking to the same people. I'm spinning my wheels, Don and his guys are spinning their wheels. I don't wanna do this anymore. Not my job, I wanna do that, but I just don't wanna keep spinning in the mud. It's horrible. That's all I got, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any public comment? Okay. Board comment. Mr. Cummings.
Thank you. Yeah, so this actually comes on the tail end of the conversation from a couple of meetings ago when we spoke of the first read of the blight ordinance revision. So I guess my question here for the board, since Mr. Tazzer and Mr. Palmer have been on the Planning Commission for some years, I heard from the last meeting that the primary impetus for the blight is complaints. So if there are complaints, then something can be looked into about it. I hear from the podium, from Fred, that this blight ordinance would help. So I guess I'm interested in hearing board comment on this topic because obviously the concern that I heard from the lady speaking on behalf of the residents, 25 years is pretty hard to put up with. And then secondly, I really appreciated Kathy's, Westerbarth's work to have comments on that particular pledge, and I'm glad we have time to go and look at all of this together and come back in 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, if it's now or during your speak, it'd be great to talk about it. I'd love to get some comment on this particular incident, which I didn't know was going to come tonight. I just, when I hear these things, it just curls my hair that we have these problems. Anyway, that's the only concern I wanted to raise tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sutton? Nothing? Mr. Westerbarth?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in and showing us the pictures. Actually, I'm familiar with that house because my good friend lives next door to that. And I know there's been complaints, but I don't know if there's been written complaints. Fred, if you could work with Mr. Horning. You know, my understanding is, you know, we do have a ordinance, but it doesn't, I mean, I know we're trying to tighten it up, but I didn't know it was totally ineffective. So that's a problem. I mean, you can just drive down Cedar Lake Road, go past Jordanville, see it every day. And my question is why? So we need to clean it up. We all want a safe and clean community, and we all have property values.
Could you come to the podium, please, so that it can be recorded?
It's just that people can't hear you otherwise.
Mr. Bugner said that he had presented, you know, a new thing for you. Have you guys had time to read that? Is that something you will take back and look over and make a decision on the next board meeting?
The first read was last board. This was the second read. The approval will be next board meeting.
The approval will be next board meeting? And I can walk away from here feeling that you guys feel the pain that we're in. Because you've been there, you know.
No,
It's a terrible thing to have to live with, and I appreciate you guys taking care of the citizens of this lovely
Thank you.
township. Don't let it go down like that.
Mr. Westerbarth?
I just hope it cleans it up because we've got a lot of things to clean up that, you know, everybody drives by every day, you can see something. And, you know, I'm not talking little things, but the large things where you got basically a junkyard sitting around the house.
Yeah. Mr. Taser?
Yeah, I have something to say about that. And in the process will be, the public hearing will probably be at the next meeting, and that's when a vote would be taken, and then 8 days later, if it passed, it would become the law. So I've been on the Planning Commission about 9 years. This has been a recurring problem. We've taken this issue, this blight ordinance, to our attorney several times, different attorneys also. And for some reason, we just can't seem to get teeth behind the ordinance. So this time the Planning Commission actually addressed it in a different way. And this ordinance now has teeth in it that will address that issue. Those pictures is a shame, but unfortunately, that's not the only example in this township. We see that throughout the township. And this is another case where you can have all the laws in the world, but if you don't have the compliance or the enforcement on it or the teeth in the ordinance, then nothing can be done. Well, something can be done on this new, and I support this, the new blight ordinance. So I will be voting yes on that. That's my comment.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this is it's a serious issue here in Oscoda, has been for a long time, and it's been a problem that our ordinance needed to be revised, and so we're taking the initiative to get that done. I also sent to the attorney our code of ordinance, which is all of the laws that the police department operate under for her to review, because there are a number of things in that, along with the blight ordinance, that don't have teeth to where the police can actually do their job. So we're looking into that and trying to make some revisions there. I am familiar with the new house being built. I live on Van Etten Lake, and when we do our real estate tour on the pontoon, we stop and look at that. It looks as though progress is kind of slowed there. It is a beautiful place, or at least could be. So we're hoping that soon that will be a working home. I have some information for the board. I don't know if anybody is aware, but our township attorney has been appointed as the president of the Michigan Bar Association. So she's a very dedicated attorney. She's been working hard. She started with the Bar Association as the secretary. Was a secretary for a year, a treasurer for a year, a vice president, and now has been appointed president pro tem. So she will be the president pro tem of the Michigan Bar Association. So I just wanted to let the bar know that, or the board know, that we have a very, very competent and good attorney working for the betterment of Oscoda Township. So that's my comment. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.